Johnny Somalia were just caught on body cam. So as you guys can see, Johnny Somalia ran at the police, and he tried to tackle one of them and take their weapon. And so they had to get rid of him right here on scene. You can see they literally had to pull him off the officer.
Brace yourself for this one. Johnny Somali is back, and this time he's threatening total chaos. In a wild moment caught on camera, Johnny looks straight into the lens and says, "If I get sent to prison again, I'm gonna go psycho. There's no more Johnny. There's no more Ramsey." That wasn't a joke. That wasn't a breakdown. That was a threat. A direct warning to everyone watching. If he doesn't get what he wants, he's ready to burn everything down. But it gets worse. That clip wasn't from some live stream or random post. It came from a full-blown documentary that Johnny Somali and Hank Yu helped put together themselves. And what's inside this documentary? Nothing short of self-destruction. These two didn't just film their crimes, they turned them into a storyline, a script, a twisted narrative designed to flip the blame and stir up sympathy. But here's the catch, it's all blowing up in their faces.
This IRL streamer is now facing 36 years in Korean prison after spending the last 2 years of his life harassing and humiliating random people on the streets of Japan, Israel, and South Korea for his own content. Johnny streamed himself being interviewed after his stunt where he got drunk and danced in his underwear in the early morning of Seoul.
And I'm going to show you that the Korean government is not going to do anything to me because I'm an American citizen.
Prosecutors keep stacking charges, and Johnny, instead of, laying low, he's doubling down. And in another major legal escalation, a victim has now filed a formal petition for severe punishment against Johnny. Johnny is charged with obstruction of business. He pled guilty to that. You have a violation of Minor Crimes Act. He pled guilty to that. You have an obstruction of business charge, which he pled guilty to as well. And then you have a deepfake violation. He pled not guilty to that. Then you have another obstruction of business charge, which he also pled not guilty to for some reason. Things are not looking good for him.
Just wait until you hear this part. The documentary wasn't about remorse. It wasn't about truth. It was an attack. A calculated PR stunt to target the one person who stood by them when the world turned its back. That person? Legal Mindset. The same guy who went out of his way to speak up for Johnny when no one else would. And how does Johnny repay him? By accusing him, dismissing him, trying to drag his name into the mud just weeks before a major trial. You can't make this up. And that's when the tables turned. Because even before setting foot in a courtroom, Johnny is already working overtime to destroy someone else's life. Legal Mindset didn't scam him, didn't betray him. He tried to help. And now Johnny's twisting it into some revenge story. And Hank? He's not stopping it. He's right there beside him, nodding along like all of this makes sense. Now here's where it gets insane.
Why isn't Johnny Somali currently arrested in South Korea? Well, South Korea apparently operates very differently, especially when it comes to foreigners. Apparently, they don't want to spend the taxpayers' money on taking care of Johnny. They want to put that burden on himself. So now, Johnny essentially is homeless. He is now a burden to Hank and Hank's family because Hank thinks it's a good idea to continue to pay for him, even though it's destroying his life as well, because he's being supported by his family, and his family is threatening to cut that off because he keeps on funneling that money back to Johnny. Why would you ever destroy your own life and ruin your standing with your own family over Johnny? This is clearly someone who's only using him because he has no options left. In an interview, they actually admitted that Johnny has ran out of money and Hank is his only lifeline.
Hank actually admits, on camera, that he sacrificed everything just to help Johnny. He says he couldn't pay his own tuition, that his mother hates him, his grandparents hate him. His entire family told him to stop, but he didn't. He stayed loyal. He said Johnny was his friend, and he had to protect him, even when everyone told him it was a mistake. But this next twist? Game-changing. Hank doesn't just describe family drama. He launches into a full-blown rage. He calls his relatives fake, curses out both sides of his family, says he only cares about the inheritance. Then he takes it further, saying he hopes they die. That's not frustration. That's not passion. That's full-blown emotional collapse caught on tape, and he's saying all of it while defending a man whose entire brand is chaos. Here's where the truth hits hard. These two didn't make a documentary to confess or explain. They made it to blame, to deflect, to play victim while torching the lives of the people who tried to help them. And it's not working. In fact, it's making things worse. Because now it's all out there, public, documented, on the record. And with their trial approaching fast, every second of this meltdown is going to haunt them in court. It turns darker from here. Imagine raising a child, giving them everything. You send them to the best schools overseas, you cover their bills, you sacrifice your final years hoping they'll one day care for you in return. But instead, that child spits in your face. Hank Yu looked straight into the camera and said, "I only care about their Fing inheritance. F them. I hope they fucking die." That's not a tantrum. That's cruelty. And no parent deserves it.
While some people are saying Johnny was suffering from schizophrenia and lost his mind, other people are saying the cops handled this completely wrong. A lot of people are actually blaming this on his South Korea trip. As you can see, this is a before and after picture. I went and looked on his Twitter and they already deleted everything. There's not a post or anything here. But apparently he was sentenced to 10 years in jail but fled the South Korea. So it would make sense for this transformation. And the reason for all of this is he was already extremely violent in Japan, where he literally tried to knock someone out but got knocked out cold. So what do you guys think of the sad ending for this streamer?
But this next part? Straight up wild. Hank's words didn't just shock viewers, they exposed something much deeper. Something's broken inside. No normal person speaks like that unless something is seriously off. And right after that rant, the documentary veered into even darker territory. It brought up the downfall of another infamous IRL streamer, Ice Poseidon, a warning sign. A perfect example of how this clout-chasing lifestyle doesn't just wreck your career, it destroys your soul. Just wait until you hear this part. In one scene, Hank explains how empathy gets in the way of making content. He says it outright. He doesn't feel anything for the people around him. Why? Because it doesn't get clicks. Let that sink in. They're literally admitting to turning off their humanity to farm views. This isn't just content. It's exploitation masked as entertainment. And the cost? Everything. But then everything changed.
I just got out of the Johnny Somali trial. It went absolutely terrible for Johnny because Johnny showed up an hour late with a MAGA hat on. There's 4 charges that was in that trial.
The fourth charge, which he just discovered about, he didn't know anything about it today, and his lawyer didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, they were pretty shocked.
In the Korean system, once the police decide to actually formally charge you and they send it to the prosecutors, that's pretty much it. That's where you get the 90+% conviction rate. You're pretty much done. If they've decided to go that far, that means they have the evidence to prove the crime.
And he came in with the biggest smile on his face. As soon as they read him his charges, his smile just vanished.
A single screenshot from the documentary blew the whole thing wide open. Hank messaged Alex Novel, the filmmaker behind this entire project, and told him to edit parts out. Why? Because the trial is coming. Because the footage could hurt Johnny's case. They weren't filming a documentary, they were building a trap. And when they realized they caught themselves in it, panic set in. Here's where the truth hits hard. Johnny Somali clearly regrets speaking so freely. The way he begged to have clips removed proves it. He knows this footage is going to follow him into court. He knows it'll be played back, frame by frame, by prosecutors who are sick of his chaos. And now, that so-called documentary is becoming evidence. And it's not in his favor. But things were about to explode, because in that same video, Johnny starts spiraling again. He's back in South Korea, streaming, walking through the streets like nothing happened. But the words coming out of his mouth? Completely unhinged. He says he needs to wear headgear now. Claims he might have CTE from being punched so many times. Says he's bipolar. Then drops this. I feel like the part of my brain with fear is just gone. Now here's where it gets insane. He starts daring the justice system. Says he's not afraid, not of jail, not of prison, not of anything. He calls himself fearless, then immediately circles back to the same meltdown. If I get sent to prison again, I'm gonna go psycho. At that point, there's no Johnny. There's no Ramsey. I'll go funning crazy. The mask is off. Johnny knows prison will break him. That's why he's doing whatever he wants now, legal or not. Because he believes once he's locked up, it's over. And then, total chaos. If you listen closely, he's not threatening the world. He's revealing the truth. Johnny Somali isn't brave. He's desperate. He knows what's coming and he's terrified. That's why he's spiraling. That's why he's turning on friends. That's why he's trying to drag legal mindset into the fire. Because he knows his time is running out, and once it does, it's game over.
Johnny Somali is such a disgrace that his own lawyer refuses to be shown on camera in South Korea. Of course, Johnny Somali is now facing mandatory prison time after a deepfake AI scandal that he was involved in, and this could land him up to 3 years in South Korean prison, and that is going to happen. He's doing everything that he can to get deported back to the US of A, but South Korea aren't having it. They're stating that he will serve his time in South Korea, but even his lawyer does not want to be associated with Johnny Somali, as when he was on a live stream, his lawyer was adamant that he could not be shown on camera.
So just
Yeah, I won't show his face.
just make sure his face is not.
I'll blur his face.
나는 나오면 안 돼.
Can you tell him that I'll blur his face?
네. 만약에 찍히면 가려준대요.
그래 제대로 찍지 말고. 이거 내야 뭐
TTS on, I'm gonna turn off this.
큰 문제는 없는데.
Turn TTS off for this. Thank you for the hat. No TTS right now. You can send it, but I'll play later.
그래 뭘 물어보려고? 물어봐. 우리 사건부터 좀 설명할게. 지금 또 이제 이거 지금 말고 오늘은 내가 먼저 이야기할게. 지금 이스마엘 그 렌즈 입던.
What do you guys make of this though? Let me know your thoughts, opinions down in the comments, and be sure to follow.
But here's the bombshell. That's exactly why Legal Mindset created the conviction team, to expose this madness for what it really is. The prosecutors in South Korea, they've had enough. They're done giving warnings. Now, they're doing everything they can to finally remove this walking disaster from their country, for good. Here's where it really explodes. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. And Johnny Somali? He's showing the world exactly who he is. This isn't just some unhinged streamer causing chaos for clout. This is a grown man weaponizing harassment for content. And now, he's finally being cornered. That's why people from all over, Koreans, Americans, expats, are coming together under the conviction team to hold him accountable. Not for revenge, for justice. But it gets worse. Johnny doesn't deny what he's doing. He brags about it. He says empathy gets in the way. He says harassing strangers makes for better content. That means you, me, anyone walking down the street, he sees us as nothing. No human value, just props in his twisted live stream circus. So why should someone like that be allowed to roam freely, camera in hand, hunting for his next victim? Now here's where the truth hits hard. This isn't a joke. It's not trolling. It's cruelty packaged as entertainment. And Johnny Somali admits it's all premeditated. That's the key. He's not unstable. He's not confused. He's fully aware of what he's doing. In his own words, he targets people on purpose, not by accident. He knows it's wrong. He just doesn't care. And then came the bombshell. Johnny actually said this behavior is what keeps him in the IRL streaming world. He admitted that having no empathy is part of the job. In fact, he literally said he has a problem with empathy, and then blamed his own father for pointing it out when he was 6 years old. Imagine that. Being so cold, so selfish, even as a kid, that your father calls you callous before you've even hit double digits. It spirals from here. Johnny tries to spin this as childhood trauma. But let's be honest, he's not looking for healing. He's looking for an excuse, a way to avoid consequences. And while he's out here talking about head injuries and mental health like it's a free pass, he's still planning new attacks, still filming people, still dragging innocent names into his mess. But things were about to explode. Because Johnny's not alone in this scheme. He's now working hand in hand with filmmaker Alex Novel to push a slanted documentary, and they're using it to smear Legal Mindset. The same Legal Mindset who tried to help. The same person who gave him a platform when no one else would. And now, They're trying to frame him as part of the problem. Here's where the mask falls off. They even pulled in a woman named Rachel Siegel, someone who staged gross, vulgar protests just to grab attention. In the documentary, she plays a role in twisting the narrative, planting ideas to make legal mindset look guilty. But it's all theater. A carefully staged setup meant to confuse, deflect, and destroy.